guys, I'm Steve Freeman, and welcome back to the Steve Freeman Podcast. Today is going to be a message, one that may be a little hard to hear, but it's one that I think everybody needs to listen up to and hear and absorb, and even more importantly, put into practice into your career. Before we get started today, I want to thank you for being here. Whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening on Apple Podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, please don't forget, leave us a review. Tell us what you think about the podcast and click those 5 stars and leave us an awesome 5-star review and subscribe to the podcast. Same goes if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscription button and also make sure you hit the bell icon next to it so that you're notified every time I upload a new video, whether it's a podcast or something about the music biz tips. That way you know when new stuff is coming up on the channel. Also, if you're not following me across social media, it's at the Steve Freeman on all social media platforms. And guys, don't forget, share the podcast. If you're getting something out of it, then maybe somebody else will, one of your friends, co-writers, or people that you work with. Share the podcast with them. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't already, you want to go deeper than the podcast, maybe a little more one-on-one and maybe a little bit behind the curtain as well, you should really sign up for my weekly newsletter, The Revolution. It's absolutely free. I don't share your email address or any of your information, but it's a great tool for tips, tricks, advice, personal stuff. I just love communicating with you guys through this newsletter, and it gets you in touch with everything that's going on with me and maybe some cool and exciting things that are coming up. I always let you guys know that are members of the Revolution. You always know first. So it's absolutely free. You can join it at thestevefreeman.com or thestevefreemanpodcast.com. All right, let's get into the meat of today's podcast. Like I said earlier, this may be a hard message for some of you to hear, and I understand why, and I know why, but today we're talking about the importance of being unique. Now, this has never been more so for those of you that are in the music business, but even those of you that are not in the music business, but you have a business of your own, no matter what you're doing, it is so important to be unique. And let me tell you what got me thinking about this. Over the weekend, I saw a post on Facebook of an event that was held here in Nashville. And what it was I think it was 5 or 6 different female artists. They were all about the same level in their career. No superstars, but, all kind of, new and emerging artists coming up together. And they were all performing at this event together. And the post that I saw, there were like 5 or 6 pictures. And some of these pictures were the artists performing on stage individually, but then there were several pictures of them where they were all together on stage. And I looked through all the pictures, and I couldn't help but think when I got done looking at the pictures that if I were an attendee, if I had bought a ticket and I had went to this show, and I were wanting to talk to somebody else that had been at that show, how would I describe any one particular individual of those artists that performed? Because they all looked exactly the same. You couldn't tell any of them apart. And they're all wearing basically the same outfit. Basically, hairstyle was exactly the same. The music was almost exactly the same. How, if I wanted to tell somebody, hey, and I didn't remember the name, which is difficult to do when you've got multiple artists up on stage, but how would I identify that I actually liked one of these people in particular? And I realized there was absolutely no way to do that. There were no unique identifiers about any of the performers that made them stand out. And I know that I've talked about this before in episodes of the podcast and in other videos that live on the YouTube channel, but it's like it never ceases to amaze me the fear that artists and people in general have of standing out. You spend so much of your time trying to fit in and look like something else. And I understand where that comes from, because there's been a marketing strategy that has gone around this town and LA and all other businesses for many years now. And that is the association strategy, that if you look, sound, and act like this other person, their fans might like you too. So you struggle and do everything that you can to make all of your stuff look and sound like this bigger artist, and then you try to go after that artist's fan base. Now, some of that's true, some of that works if you're in a particular style, but I got to be honest with you, it works better when you have more of a micro niche and you're not exactly a carbon copy of this other artist. Because I've said this before, when I was looking at these female artists over the weekend perform, my thought was, okay, you're all trying to chase Kelsey Ballerini or Carrie Underwood because you all look exactly like her, both of them. There's nothing unique that stands out about any one of you. And I get the thinking that, oh, well, if you like Kelsey Ballerini, then you're going to like my music. Well, we've already got a Kelsey Ballerini. Or if you like Carrie Underwood, then you're going to like my music because I look just like her, I sound just like her, and my music sounds just like her. Except we've already got a Carrie Underwood. And the pool that you're trying to swim in is only so big. And honestly, when you have a fish like Carrie Underwood or Kelsey Ballerini, they take up a lot of space in that pool. And I'm not just picking on female artists here. There is another, and I'm going to say one because I always think of this guy in particular, and I'm not going to name any names because I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm trying to help you. But Eric Church is another one that's big with male artists right now. And it's like, okay, every guy is coming out with the black t-shirt, the baseball cap, and the sunglasses. And it's like, okay, so you're obviously trying to go after Eric Church's fan base. And I get it. Those of you that do have teams, I'm sure you've got people around you that are telling you that this is the way forward. This is what you're supposed to do. Guys, it's not. Be unique. Stand out. I've said it many times before. You ought to be trying to find that one thing about you that is different than everybody else, not the many things about you that are exactly like other people. Find the things that make you unique. In the circumstance I was talking about earlier, be the female artist that looks completely different, has a completely different style of music, and has everything about you be different, because you're going to be the one artist that people remember when they walk out of that venue. Now, that's not to say that everybody's going to like what you do. Maybe it's too different for some people. But we've talked so many times in the past about the importance of creating a unique and engaged fan base. You're only going to be able to do that if you are focusing on the areas in which make you different, in which make you unique. You're going to draw the people that appreciate and identify with your uniqueness. You're going to draw those people to you. And I promise you, 100%, those people are far more likely to stick around and actually be loyal fans than these people you're trying to poach fans from. There is nothing wrong with being unique. I see so many times artists and songwriters, they come to town and they think the answer is fitting in. We've got to fit in. We've got to sound just like this songwriter, or we've got to write songs that sound just like this successful songwriter. Or on the artist side, we have to look exactly like this artist because that's what we think the labels are looking for. We've got to sound just like this artist. Our pictures, our website, our social media. Guys, stand out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Standing out is hard to do because it's almost like everybody likes being a part of a group, right? Everybody likes feeling that you're fitting in, that you're a part of something, that you're a part of something bigger than yourself with other people. There's power in feeling like you're sharing the journey with other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you'll realize sooner rather than later that the more you stand out, the further you're going to go. Because one of the things that I notice And I always dig a little bit deeper. I started looking into each one of these female artists a little more deeply. And I started looking at them individually and researching about them. And they're all about at the same level in their career. No one is really more successful than the other. They've been at it a while and nobody is breaking through. And I think that is the problem. Think of it kind of like this way. Okay, you're going to take a trip. You're going to take a boat or a car and you're going to carpool. So all 4, 5, 6 of you, or even figuratively 1 million of you, hop in this bus or boat or whatever, and you set out on your journey. Now, nobody's going to get to the destination before you do. You're all either going to arrive at the same time or you're not going to arrive at all. Now, it might be cheaper to carpool. I don't like people that much, so it's like Uber. I know you can Uber, you can share Uber rides and things like that. But I guarantee you, if you go your own way, you rent your own car, you get in your own boat, you're going to get there faster than the people that are carpooling. Why? Because if you've got 5 people in this car over here, everybody's going to have to stop and pee, and they never have to go to the bathroom at the same time. One person's going to have to go, then you're going to have to get off the road, then you're going to get back on the road. 2 miles later, somebody else is going to have to go. If you're in your own car, you travel at your own pace. I guarantee you get there before the carpool, because the only person that you're competing with, the only person that you're measuring yourself against is you. I think another pitfall that I find a lot of times with this fit-in marketing strategy is that I think you lose yourself a little bit. I think you start to look, act, and feel like all these other people so much that you lose what is special about you. God made each one of us unique. Now, I don't know whether you're a religious person or whatever it is you believe. I don't care. I think that God made us individually. I think he gave each one of us a set of talents, a unique personality, and I think those are meant to be our strengths. So while I know you want to grow your career, and I know that the first line of thinking is that you're going to get there faster if you and your product looks and sounds like something that's already successful. Maybe so. But I promise that you will be a lot happier and you will enjoy the process so much more if you stop doing that and think, okay, I am similar to these other artists in these 15 different ways. But I've got these 3 things about me that are completely different and completely unique. I promise you that if you focus on those 3 things, and you make those 3 things your strengths, and those 3 things are the things that you put out there for people to see, and those are the 3 things by which you identify who you are and what your goals are, I promise that you will be far more successful than trying to focus on the other 15 similarities that you share with these other people. Look, I understand. Standing alone is sometimes difficult and it's scary to think about because you feel like you're all alone, that you're out here on this island all by yourself. And maybe that's the truth. That's just the cold, hard facts. There are and is strength in numbers. But like I said, if you're just part of the crowd, how's anybody supposed to hear you? You've got to stand out. Be unique. When did we start punishing people for being unique and being different? I mean, I can look back over the last 20 years and I can remember thinking about seeing new artists on the scene and thinking, oh my God, because see, look here, guys, look, I was a part of the whole mainstream thing for a long time. I thought and I taught this exact thing I'm telling you not to do because that's the way that we thought things worked. And that was the mainstream line of thinking, swim with the school, don't stand out. You can stand out when you make it. The music business has changed so much over the last 5 years even, but really over the last 10 years, that philosophy doesn't work anymore. And I know that it doesn't work. So I'm telling you to find what it is that makes you unique. Be different. Don't be afraid to not look, sound, and appear like everybody else. Going back to that scenario, it's like I said, if I were at that show and I was sitting in one area and a friend of mine was sitting in another part of that venue, but we met up afterwards and we wanted to talk about what we saw and what we thought about the performances, there was no way in the world we could identify or single out any one of those performers. And I think we can all agree that that is a bad thing. You want to be the one people leave talking about. And the only way to do that is to look different, sound different, act different, be different. Stand out versus standing in. Again, like I said, I know it's difficult to think about. I know it goes against everything that everybody's out there preaching right now. But I'm telling you, it is the truth. If you look at some of the most successful artists right now, they stand out. They're different. And maybe it took them a little longer to get there than some of the others, but they're the ones that'll be there in the end. You need to start aiming for the career that you want right now. Stop thinking about, well, if I can just get to this point, then I'll start doing the music I want to do. Well, I'm going to write songs just like these other successful songwriters are writing because those are the songs everybody's cutting. Until you hear about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that somebody did something different, something special, and it took them to a whole new level with their career. So take an assessment of yourself. Are you trying to fit in, or are you trying your best to stand out and be unique? Are you the one red umbrella in a sea of black umbrellas? Or are you just another black umbrella? Are you just another female artist on a stage in a romper and cowboy boots? Be different. I promise you, it'll be worth it in the long run. Guys, thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. Don't forget to leave us a review and give us 5 stars. And as always, don't forget, the podcast is available everywhere. So if you're on an Android device, you can listen on Google Play, you can listen on Stitcher, radio.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We are everywhere. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, hit that subscription button and the bell icon next to it so that you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. The podcast is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon, available everywhere you listen to podcasts or watch them. If you're not following me on social media, I would love to have you a part of the family. Follow me so I can follow you back. It's at the Steve Freeman all across social media. And do me a favor, if you're getting something out of the podcast, share it with somebody. Be unique. Nobody wants to share anything. Share the podcast. And if you want to join my weekly newsletter, we would love to have you. You can find it and sign up. It's absolutely free at thestevefreeman.com or thestevefreemanpodcast.com. Until next time, guys, keep being creative. Keep pushing the boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with being independent or unique. See you in the next one.